Translator Ninetails. Fish Creek. The old monk's snow-white brows gave a twitch, and in that instant he knew precisely what flaw was being named. Back when he first studied those arts, he had once nodded off in a lecture of Rulai's, right at the moment the teaching spoke of the thousand-armed Buddha. Buddha's path speaks of karma and fate. The old monk had missed that destined thread, and so he was unable to seek Rulai's true essence of the thousand-armed Buddha. He could only question his senior and junior brothers who had attained the thousand-armed Buddha. Yet after all was said, how could second-hand understanding compare to Rulai's authentic transmission? Within his thousand-armed Buddha, there truly lurked a flaw so subtle it was almost imperceptible. The old monk had long since discovered it and wished to mend it. Yet the more he tried to patch it, the more that flaw swelled and widened. To untie a knot, one must find its origin. The thousand-armed Buddha was incomparably intricate, requiring every sense to interlock and move as one. The variations were countless beyond counting, and any tiny error could never arise from a single cause. It might be born from several, nay, dozens of reasons that seemed to share no connection with the fault at all. The old monk had sought the cause since youth, and even now he had not found it. The flaw in his thousand-armed Buddha naturally passed to Ming Xin, for Ming Xin was his disciple. This flaw was exceedingly slight, revealed only beneath attacks of extreme speed. Its workings were thus. Whenever his arms passed an inch below the throat, his vital qi would grow faint for the briefest moment. Under an enemy's high-speed assault, because the vital qi within the arms turned frail, the speed at which he raised his hands would slow by the merest hair. In that instant, the flaw would flash at the throat like lightning's glint. The old monk's cultivation was profound, so few could ever force that flaw into view. But for Ming Xin, it was another matter. In cultivation, Qin Mu stood above Ming Xin, and with Qin Mu's hands as knives, his strikes became unnaturally swift. In but a short span, he had already landed 100 cuts upon Ming Xin's throat. At the 68th blow, the golden radiance around Ming Xin's body had already shattered once. Though Ming Xin gathered his vital qi again to form that immense golden bell, Qin Mu's knife had already cleaved into his throat. Blood poured in torrents from Ming Xin's throat, dyeing his white Buddhist robe a deep, glaring red. The old monk let out a sigh. Silly child! If your thousand-armed Buddha cannot block his knives, do you not know to use another move? Ming Xin abruptly realized his mistake. In striving to receive Qin Mu's knife hands, he had forgotten that if he only defended, he would only be battered without end. Yet with the brief breathing room gained by using the golden bell to block Qin Mu's knives, he could seize a chance to defeat his foe. It was Qin Mu's madness that had intimidated him, causing him to forget what he excelled at. He suddenly changed his technique. His palm clenched into a fist, and the air trembled and vibrated. That fist was like a massive golden sun, dazzling beyond endurance. Sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky? In that very moment, a melodious Buddha voice actually rang from within his mudra. Following it came a thunderous rumble from the thunder within his palm, mighty enough to cleanse and purge souls. Ming Xin's sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky differed from Qin Mu's. The power of this move was several times greater than what Qin Mu could unleash. Receiving a blow from it, Qin Mu instantly felt his mind go muddled. His 3 souls moved together, and all 7 of his spirits were startled into disorder. Thud! 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 Qin Mu raised a finger and delivered a series of dazzling pokes into his forehead, tailbone, navel, head, throat, heart, perineum, and lungs, locking his 3 souls and 7 spirits firmly in place. Heavenly Devil Nature Technique. Granny C had imparted the Heavenly Devil Nature Technique to him, meant for binding souls and spirits, locking essence and blood so one could strip skin to make clothes. Yet now Qin Mu used it upon himself, binding his own souls and spirits so they would not be purged by Ming Xin's attack. Samoye! An urgent devil voice sounded out as Qin Mu formed a pinching flower gesture. With a jolt of his palm, the Devil Freedom Mudra surged forward, causing Ming Xin's soul to waver, nearly dragged out of his body. However, at this moment, Qin Mu suddenly changed again. Switching from devil art to Buddha art, sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky. Ming Xin's sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky turned his fist into the sun. using the thunderclap to shatter souls and the golden radiance to purge souls. Qin-Mu's sunshine-refining yang soul in the sky, however, turned his fist into a sun ignited with vermilion bird vital qi, bearing a terrifying heat that could melt steel. Qin-Mu opened his fist, and the air within his palm instantly exploded, blasting with tremendous impact into the opponent's face, throwing the opponent's soul into chaos. There was a difference between Old Mai's sunshine-refining yang soul in the sky and the old monks. It was plain to see the old monks belonged to authentic tradition, while Old Ma had improved upon it and focused more upon raw might. It was only that Qin-Mu lacked Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Thus, he could not unleash its full force. Just as Ming-Shin's soul wavered under that impact, nearly flying free of his body, another low shout resonated. Samoye! Qin-Mu actually changed moves again, pinching flower gesture held, the Devil Freedom Mudra executed once more. Granny C, the old monk, and the others were all startled to see Qin-Mu swap between the mudras of Buddhism and Devil so unimpeded and smooth. Buddha and Devil were destined to conflict. To execute Buddha techniques after using Devil techniques was exceptionally difficult, and never could it be as seamless as what Qin-Mu had done. It's the Overlord Body Vital Qi. Def gave a smile and muttered. Granny C heard, and her heart jolted faintly. Def is right. Only Overlord Body Vital Qi, without attribute, can swap between Buddha techniques and Devil techniques so smoothly. Mu'er is indeed an Overlord body. Village Chief was right. The old monk suddenly rose and chanted the Buddha's name. Qin-Mu's Devil Freedom Mudra instantly lost its power, and an invisible force split him away from Ming-Shin. Ming-Shin wished to readjust his spirit to fight Qin-Mu again, but darkness washed over his eyes as his body swayed. He had lost far too much blood. His throat had nearly been slashed into two. I've lost. The old monk cast Old Ma a glance and beckoned Ming-Shin to come over. Junior brother, I may have lost this time, but not the next. Ming-Shin, we have wandered everywhere and have not found a place to settle. How about we seek a good karma nearby and find a village where we can put down roots? Ming-Shin's throat still bled as he stepped forward. The old monk helped bandage it after applying ointments, then spoke to Old Ma in a profound tone. Junior brother, the monk staff may be gone, yet another can still be made. However, a head can only be lost once. Once you lose it, you lose everything. Also, little benefactor, cultivating devil techniques has made you treacherous and murderous. Beware of sinking into the depths of hell, never to reincarnate, by taking the devil's path. After speaking, he brought Ming-Shin and floated away, never stepping upon the earth. Qin-Mu leapt down from the arena, watching the old monk and his disciple depart. Old Ma's expression was solemn. Clearly, he worried over the old monk's words. Grandpa Ma, Granny, if they get the chance, would they kill us? Granny C laughed coldly. Subduing demons and devils is how that old baldy earns his living. If they get the chance, our end won't be any better than Woman Wu. As for Old Ma... She shook her head. By imparting the Thunderclap 8 strikes, Old Ma had already broken the taboo of Great Thunderclap Monastery. Qin-Mu asked, puzzled. Then why don't we just kill him to save ourselves the trouble? Why do we still have to wait for him to come stir trouble? Granny C's eyes brightened, and she supported him at once. Our Mu'er is starting to have the demeanor of an overlord body. Apothecary. Mute, blind. How about we just silence this old baldy and little baldy? Though the old monk had already gone far, upon hearing that he subconsciously hastened his pace, flying away with Ming-Shin without another thought of settling near disabled elderly village, Granny C and the others did not give chase. They simply returned to their own work. Def suddenly sighed with Rue. Great Ruins is getting more and more unreliable. Any demons and monsters can enter and raise a fuss. Blind nodded in agreement, making us honest people unable to have a moment of peace. Old Ma, there's no point in hiding like this. When the day comes and you want to go back to Great Thunderclap Monastery, we old bones will follow you there. Old Ma was moved, but he did not show it. Instead, he lifted the monk staff. I slaughtered my way out of Great Thunderclap Monastery back then, so I naturally have to slaughter my way back without your help. Mu'er, you won this, so it belongs to you. Qin-Mu took the monk staff. It was not as heavy as he had imagined. The staff had clearly pressed the table down deep. Yet in his hands it felt quite light, so he asked in bewilderment, "Is this monk staff very valuable? Why did Old Ma have to use his head as a wager?" "Valuable? It's not really valuable." Granny examined the monk staff and grinned. "Do you know Border Dragon City? This monk staff could only buy down a Border Dragon City at most." Translane Tales. Editor, Fish Creek. Chinmu's eyes flew wide. This monk staff looked plain as old bamboo, yet it could buy down the entire Border Dragon City? The name of this monk staff is called Kakara. Having 4 crotchets and 12 rings, it was made by Rulai from the Great Thunderclap Monastery and can also be used for beating people. It should be worth as much as Border Dragon City. Old Ma explained unhurriedly. However, this monk staff is used more for cultivating. When you hold onto the staff, any rouse in desires or emotions will cause the rings to jingle. Once the rings jingled, all the distracting thoughts in your mind would vanish. Thus, it is a treasure to get rid of the devil in your heart. The 12 rings can break 12 types of distraction and get rid of 12 devils inside. When the devils inside your heart emerge, the rings will jingle and the devils inside your heart would be covered and turned into dust. The staff is separated into 4 crotchets, which are to abstain from fleshly desires, to practice the 4 noble truths, to cultivate equality, and to achieve Zen. With this monk staff, cultivation will be twice as fast. Granny C's eyes brightened at once, shining as she stared fixedly at the monk staff in Chinmu's hand. "Muir, lend Granny the monk staff for a minute. There's a great devil inside Granny's heart that has annoyed Granny for quite a long time." Chinmu handed the Kakara monk staff over to Granny C and asked in curiosity, "What kind of devil resides in your heart, Granny?" "An old fellow," Granny C sighed, bending forward a little. "No matter what I do, this old fellow can't die. I have killed him over 1,000 times, and he is still alive and causing havoc in my heart. If I can use this monk staff to kill him, I can finally be at peace." Chinmu still didn't know what old devil in her heart was, and Granny C did not say more. The instant the monk staff settled into her hands, all 12 rings burst into furious jingling, the sound roaring deafeningly. Granny C's devilish nature erupted. A terrifying bearing surged outward from her. That presence did not seem to belong to her at all. She was as though transformed into someone else entirely. Chinmu's hair stood on end. There was another person living inside Granny Sai. Blind, Old Ma, cripple, apothecary, and mute likewise had their hair standing on end. They all immediately retreated a step. That dreadful atmosphere pressed upon them and made them feel threatened as well. After a while, Granny Sai's face fell. She returned the monk staff to Chinmu. "This thing can't do anything to that old devil. Goddamn! Why can't I kill him?" Chinmu received the monk staff back and tried to strap it to his back together with the bamboo staff, yet it was too long, making it awkward for movement, so he could only carry it in his hand. "You aren't a monk, so throw that staff on the cow cart." Old Ma then declared, "You have passed the test for the temple fair today. There's no need for you to continue fighting. To be able to defeat the Great Thunderclap Monastery's disciple is considered a great achievement." However, Ming Xin isn't the disciple of Rulai, and his ability is still far from Rulai's disciple. Do you understand? Chinmu casually tossed the extremely valuable monk staff onto the cow cart and asked with curiosity, "How strong is Rulai's disciple?" Old Ma answered indifferently, "I was Rulai's disciple back then. When you could defeat me, you would be considered a true overlord body." Chinmu's heart trembled. When he trained with Old Ma every day, Old Ma had only displayed spirit embryo realm cultivation. Yet even so, Chinmu was always left bruised by Old Ma's fists. One must know Old Ma only had one arm left. If he had both arms, who knew how terrifying his power would be? Chinmu understood clearly. The road ahead was still long beyond measure. The temple fair at Granma Temple lasted 2 days. As evening arrived, many people began packing up their stalls and moving into Granma Temple. The temple was broad and spacious, with stone statues standing guard as well. It was a safe refuge against the darkness invasion. Chinmu drove the cow cart into Granma Temple and lifted his head to look, seeing the sunsets spilling light across the entire Sirius Palace. Only after entering Granma Temple did he understand why Sirius Palace was called Granma Temple. This was because, within the main hall, There was enshrined and worshipped a statue of a benevolent old woman. That kindly old woman looked like any elderly woman from the neighboring villages, with a crafty glint hidden in her eyes. The carving was vivid, lifelike. Chinmu even felt she resembled Granny C and looked a few times more. Yet, when he used Heaven's eyes to look, he nearly jumped in shock. The amicable old woman was actually overflowing with a blazing aura. Her divine light gathered into an incomparably huge, towering wolf, howling toward the heavens as if it meant to swallow the sky. Beside the main hall, there were also the front palace hall, 2 side halls, and an empty garden that covered an enormous area. In the garden was a pond that had dried up. Within lay several sets of skeletons. Chinmu went closer to look and judged they were likely fish bones, yet those fish were enormous, spanning about 20 yards in length. Even stranger, these fish bones actually carried the characteristics of a dragon. Apothecary called him back and took out ointments to apply to his wounds, while Mute and Blind fried an egg to the side. The hen dragon had laid a coconut-sized egg and was clucking noisily away. Inside Grandma Temple, the other villagers had already lit their fires to make dinner. After the sun set and they finished eating, they would be ready to sleep. Just then, a young man suddenly dashed in from outside the temple, face anxious, and shouted, "Midwife! Is there a midwife here? My wife is about to give birth." Everyone in the temple looked toward him, yet no one spoke. Granny C stood and replied, trembling slightly, "Old one here is pretty skilled and has delivered a baby every now and then. Could your wife still hold it in? The sky is almost dark. If she can hold out until dawnbreak tomorrow, I can go over." The young man dropped to his knees and kowtowed again and again. "She can't wait anymore. I beg you to save my wife and child. My wife is in difficult labor, and the midwife in the village is unable to deliver my child." Granny Sai looked at the setting sun, expression troubled. "Please help me. I beg you." The young man slammed his head until blood flowed and wailed. "My wife had a few children these few years, and they were stillborn. If this child is to die as well, my bloodline would be cut short." Granny C was startled. "They were all stillborn?" The young man nodded repeatedly. Granny Sai asked with suspicion, "Since she has a difficult delivery, the child is definitely not stillborn. There's something weird going on. Is your village far from here?" "Not far. It's only 7 miles away from Grandma Temple." "Granny," she glanced at the setting sun and let out a breath of relief. 7 miles? You are from Zhang Manor, which is not far away. We'll be able to make it before nightfall. Blind, Muir, follow me. There's something suspicious going on." Chinmu was surprised. Granny Sai was usually cranky. He hadn't expected her to be so good-hearted. The young man leapt up and sprinted toward Zhang Manor's direction. He should be a martial arts practitioner, and his speed was decent. He feared returning late, yet when he looked back, Granny Sai and Blind, and even the 11 to 12-year-old boy had all kept pace with him. "You're too slow, Blind," the old fogey said. "Muir, carry him and pick up your speed in case the sun sets." Chinmu immediately surged forward, lifted the man without a word, and warned him, "Beware of the knife on my back. Don't cut yourself." The man hurriedly said, "Put me down. You won't run fast enough carrying me." Before he could finish, the wind's wailing roared into his ears as Chinmu sprang out of the forest and ran atop the trees. The man was aghast as the wind howled louder and louder. The youth carrying him ran faster and faster, and the man thought in shock, "How did this brother cultivate? He's way stronger than me." In the midst of the sprint, Chinmu felt as though he were stepping upon the wind itself, and he thought, Grandpa Cripple said he had refined his body at Spirit Embryo Realm while walking on the cusp of the gust. If I could find the cusp of gust, could I also walk on the wind? However, what exactly is the cusp of the gust? But in the rush he had no time to ponder further. The man on his back was still worried. Granny C and Blind couldn't keep up. Then he suddenly saw both elders sitting cross-legged behind Chinmu. The two of them were actually swept up by the whirlwind. Chinmu's sprint raised, no slower than Chinmu at all. What kind of body technique is this? He was stupefied. At last, the sun sank completely. Darkness swarmed from the west, shrouding and devouring everything in its path. With Chinmu's speed, Zhang Manor was already visible in the distance. He immediately sprinted toward it, hoping to reach it before the darkness caught up to him. Whoosh! Even though he forced himself to stop, the fierce wind behind him still surged forward. Granny Sea and Blind, seated upon the wind, drifted several yards ahead before extending their legs and planting their feet upon the ground. Chin Moo blanked for a moment, then his heart leapt with joy. Cusp of gust, so this is the cusp of gust!